I was accused of being drunk in class for simply having a speech impediment. My heart raced as I faced accusations from my teacher and principal, feeling alone and hopeless. But with the help of a friend and some legal documentation, I was able to prove my innocence. Here's how it all went down. I was in my high school classroom, presenting a Google Slides presentation about abortion. I had rehearsed it several times and was feeling confident. I have a speech impediment that makes me sound slurred, but I was trying my best to enunciate my words clearly. Before this happened, I was just sitting in my chair, going over my notes one last time before presenting. The teacher was a middle-aged woman named Karen. She had been teaching at the school for 20 years and was known for being strict. I had never really talked to her before, but I knew she had a reputation for being tough on her students. As I finished my presentation, I was feeling pretty good about myself. I had worked hard on it and had done my best to speak clearly, despite my speech impediment. But as I packed up my things and prepared to leave the classroom, Karen came up to me and asked if I had been drinking. "Excuse me?" I said, taken aback. "I said, have you been drinking?" Karen repeated, looking me up and down. "No, of course not," I said, feeling my face flush with anger. "I have a speech impediment. That's why I sound like this." Karen raised an eyebrow. "A speech impediment, huh? That's a convenient excuse." "It's not an excuse," I said, feeling my frustration growing. "It's the truth." "I don't believe you," Karen said, her voice rising. "I think you're making fun of abortion rights, and I won't stand for it." "I'm not making fun of anything," I protested. "I'm just trying to do my presentation." "Save it for the principal," Karen said, pointing towards the door. "You're going to his office, and we'll see what he has to say about this." I felt humiliated as I left the classroom. I couldn't believe that Karen had accused me of being drunk, especially when I had done nothing wrong. I knew that I would have to explain myself to the principal, but I wasn't sure that he would believe me either. "I'm sorry, Emily, but I just can't accept your excuse," the principal said, shaking his head. "We have a zero-tolerance policy for drug use, and if you're using drugs, then we have to take action." "I'm not using drugs," I said, my voice shaking. "I have a speech impediment. That's why I sound like this." "I understand that, but I still have to investigate," the principal said, looking at me sternly. "I'm sorry." I felt tears welling up in my eyes. I couldn't believe that this was happening to me. I had always tried to be a good student, and now I was being accused of something that I hadn't even done. "I can't believe this," I said, my voice trembling. "I can't believe that you don't believe me." "I'm sorry, Emily," the principal said, his voice softening, "but I have to investigate. That's my job." I nodded, feeling defeated. I knew that there was nothing I could do to change his mind. I was sitting in the principal's office, feeling defeated and embarrassed. I couldn't believe that I had been accused of being drunk, especially when I had done nothing wrong. I knew that I had to explain my situation to the principal, but I wasn't sure that he would believe me. Then, my friend Lily burst into the room. "Emily, what's going on?" she asked, looking at me with concern. "They think I'm drunk," I said, my voice shaking. "But I'm not. I have a speech impediment. That's why I sound like this." Lily turned to the principal. "Check Emily's 504 plan or whatever," she demanded. "It's gotta be on here." The principal looked at me quizzically. "What do you mean?" he asked, as if he didn't know what a 504 plan was. He probably did know what it was, but felt stupid for not thinking about it first. At least I hope so. "It's a plan that students with disabilities have," Lily explained. "It outlines the accommodations they need to succeed in school. Emily has one for her speech impediment." The principal looked at me, then at Lily. "Let me see what I can find," he said, opening a file cabinet and rifling through some papers. The principal's confidence definitely deflated after Lily mentioned my 504 plan. It's really illegal for a teacher, let alone a principal, to completely ignore a disability accommodation agreement, because it could lead to lawsuits. After a few moments, he pulled out a piece of paper and began to read it. "It says here that Emily has a speech impediment and requires accommodations," he said, looking up at me. "I'm sorry, Emily. I should have looked into this before accusing you of anything. It seems like you shouldn't even have been asked to present in front of the class in the first place." I didn't even say thank you. I literally just walked out and stayed in the bathroom until it was next period. Karen the next day was treating me extremely nice. I assumed that they talked and realized that they royally screwed up and didn't want to get hit by a lawsuit. Whatever. It pisses me off, but at least they'll get out of my hair now, and I don't have to do any more presentations either. Wow, that's crazy. It's so messed up that the teacher accused her of being drunk just because of a speech impediment. I'm glad that her friend was able to help her out, and that everything worked out in the end. It's sad that some people can be so quick to judge without even knowing the full story. Am I the jerk for saying my husband shouldn't go to a birthday party I wasn't invited to? I never expected things to escalate as quickly as they did. It started with a simple birthday party, or so I thought. but as I delved deeper, I realized there was a web of lies and manipulations that had been spun around me. And then, everything came crashing down. Here's how it all went down. My husband has a best friend who has always disliked me. She doesn't say anything outright, but her actions are almost bizarre, they're so petty. I sincerely would say if I thought I had done something to warrant this, but she's been pretty cold to me since day one. The first day I met her, she referred to me as temporary. Still, she was invited to our wedding. I always make an effort to be cordial, and I don't have the energy to care beyond that. Her excluding me from things has always been a pattern. For example, my husband's Christmas present last year was a gift certificate for rock climbing. She had already picked a date and friends to go with. I didn't make the cut. She also always buys him things when she travels and makes sure to address them only to him when she sends them. I could go on, but I think y'all will get it. She's not horrible, but noticeably rude. By the way, she absolutely has a crush on my husband. I know this. He would never cheat, so I don't care. Things came to a head last week when he explained she was having a birthday dinner with just close friends. I wasn't invited. She made that clear. It later came out that the intimate dinner she pitched has turned to a house party with over 50 people invited. The Facebook invite says it's an open invite. I've had it. I told my husband I don't think he should go. It's gotten to the point that this is openly disrespectful. To his credit, my husband agreed with me. But he's very, very sad because they've been friends since childhood, and he knows this will ruin it. I told him I don't have a ton of sympathy, because if this is enough to ruin their friendship, it's not one worth having. He asked if he could take her out for drinks, just the two of them to celebrate, but I wasn't thrilled. I said he was a grown man and could do what he wanted, but I feel it's pretty messed up. Finally, he asked if we could sit down to talk with her and all take accountability. I said sure, but I don't see what good it will do. I also said I wouldn't apologize unless she could point to something specific that I've done to warrant it. I've been nothing but nice to a person who has been repeatedly disrespectful. Maybe I could have handled it better. Maybe the repeated pattern is making me a little harsh in the situation. Am I the jerk? Edit. FYI, my husband is a wonderful person who has always said he'd pick me over her, and probably his childhood friend group, every time. I never push this because I don't care very much. I have absolutely no doubt he'll do the right thing if I ask. I just want to make sure what I'm asking is the right thing. Edit to my edit. My husband is reading these responses and it's been helpful. I can see it so clearly on the outside, but he's been sucked into crazy town for so long it's good for him to see how juvenile she's being. Sometimes, in very rare moments, Reddit wake-up calls are healthy. Our verdict here at You're the Jerk is that you're not the jerk. A commenter asked how the OP managed to stay so calm and collected despite being mistreated by her husband's friend. Well, the OP replied, I am definitely not the cool girl. Let the record show, I have very clearly misrepresented myself. I have a trauma disorder that manifests itself in me not really feeling anger or picking up on certain social cues. It makes situations like this difficult because I don't have the weight of emotions most people do when they act on social dynamics. That sounds really tough, the commenter responded. How do you manage to deal with someone like your husband's friend who seems to cause so many issues? I'm definitely not okay with it, the OP said. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't see the center of my life. This year alone we've dealt with a pregnancy loss, close family member dying, and a huge trial. I am a lawyer, and that last one might not seem like a big deal, but it is very draining. My inability to care about her doesn't stem from apathy, but rather exhaustion. Every single issue with her becomes 5 issues, and I don't really have any interest in being around someone like that. Everyone has blind spots in a marriage. To be honest, we have been sucked into her manipulative pattern for so long that I have started to question my own sanity. This thread has helped a lot. I thought more people would side with him. This friendship happens to be my husband's biggest blind spot. While it is indeed serious, it's not exactly a deal breaker. We have and will have bigger struggles in life. I'm just so ready to find a resolution to this one. The OP left the following update. I don't expect anyone to actually read this all, but I didn't know what part of the drama to cut off. I'm having a hard time processing everything, to be honest. Welcome to Crazy Town. Buckle up. Well, y'all called it. There was infidelity, but not from my husband. First off, my husband is not a bad guy despite the overwhelming verdict. This is one of his biggest blind spots. But we have a really lovely life in marriage. I truly believe we both messed up on this one by allowing a toxic person to manipulate us with her anger. It happened so slowly over time that neither of us realized how insane the situation had gotten. So I'll say this is a rare moment when Reddit helped a relationship. To clarify a few quick things, Birthday Girl has been in my husband's life since grade school. Their entire group of friends have been close since childhood. They mean a lot to him, and I'll always respect them for getting him through some tough times. Yes, even her. I should also note they survived a tragedy together as kids, so there is a level of trauma bonding with this crew. Sometimes it's a little unhealthy, but apart from Birthday Girl, I really like all of them individually. To be honest, I've always felt my husband didn't like birthday girl very much but didn't want to lose his friends. When someone has an issue with her, she blows up on all of them to the point that she makes everyone miserable. It's gotten pretty bad in the past. She always claims to have a mental health crisis and manipulates how she retells conflict so that she's always the victim. Everyone in her life is a textbook people pleaser, including my husband, which I'm fairly certain is by design. I also want to clarify that my husband and her have never been romantic. That was a common theory in my last post. She calls him her best friend, but their relationship is pretty dependent on the group dynamics and her unyielding clinginess. Everyone on Reddit was very concerned about her having a crush on him because it opens up the possibility of cheating. Let me be clear. He's super attractive and could always find a willing partner if he wanted to cheat. I don't care what her intentions are. I trust the person I'm married to. Also, I kept trying to avoid saying this in my last post. She's not very attractive and he is definitely not attracted to her on any level. Anyway, my husband and I talked for a long time and decided the situation was no longer sustainable. Even if he lost his friends, nothing was worth such blatant disrespect. He apologized a lot for letting it get that far. Alright, on to the drama. There's another girl in his friend group I'll call Sarah. I've always really liked her, so we invited her and her husband over for dinner. About halfway through the meal, my husband brought up the issue with birthday girl not inviting me to her party, and how I've been excluded many times throughout the years. Sarah looked dumbstruck and stated, "Well, it wouldn't matter if your wife was invited anyway because she refuses to be in the same room as birthday girl, right? Wouldn't she be angry?" I have never ever stated anything like that to anyone. We pushed her to say more. To make a very long story short, Sarah explained that birthday girl came to folks in their friend group years ago. According to her, it was too painful for her to be around me because of the connection she had with my husband. Again, these two have never even kissed, and I always got the feeling she annoyed him. She instructed them all to stop inviting me to places so they didn't offend me by forcing me to turn them down. She even told them not to bring it up with my husband because it was such a sore subject. Apparently she has been telling them for years that I get angry every time I get an invite because I find it disrespectful, and it's caused a huge rift in my marriage. They all thought this was weird, but didn't want to make things worse so they let it go. Upon reflection, this actually made a lot of sense. We've always been invited to smaller events or things when birthday girl was out of town. I had a feeling that either this was a group of really amazing actors or something else was going on. Everyone but birthday girl has been really nice to me. This story was unequivocally confirmed. Not only did two other people in their group of friends later reiterate this exact narrative and apologize, I watched Sarah text birthday girl while we were at the table. When asked why I wasn't invited to birthday girl's party, she responded, "You know how painful it is for her to be around me. I hope one day we can all be in a room together without it being weird, but we need to respect that she doesn't want to hang out with us." Sarah was angry, and my husband was upset. He ended up calling her on speakerphone and asked where she got the idea I was threatened by their connection. Birthday girl kept saying she didn't know what he was talking about. Then she claimed Sarah must be confused or lying because she never said that. That's when Sarah chimed in, and birthday girl realized she was on speakerphone with Sarah in the room. Birthday girl immediately yelled at them for tricking her and went off about how she didn't deserve to be attacked. Then she hung up. She sent Sarah close to 20 texts while she was still at our house about this betrayal. She also sent Sarah's husband a text asking him how it feels to be married to a drug addict, referencing the fact that Sarah did a certain drug in college, a fact she's pretty ashamed of, so this was a low blow. She sent my husband a text begging him not to listen to anything Sarah says because she's blinded by jealousy. We all threw up our hands and laughed. I thought this would be the worst of it. Sarah and my husband ended up getting a little drunk, and they ranted for an hour comparing stories. A lot of stuff came out about how many problems she's caused throughout the years, and how she's always been controlling. I marveled because her crazy went beyond the scope I anticipated. Sarah announced she was done with birthday girl, but alluded that things might get ugly. I assumed she meant birthday girl would be dramatic, which I now see was naive. Sarah told everyone in their group the following day. There wasn't an official vote to kick her off the island, but let's just say nobody fought too hard to keep her. Apparently there were a lot of issues with her. Birthday girl has since gone off the rails. I've never seen anyone crash and burn so violently. She called my husband 42 times in 2 hours. She showed up at one of their friends' houses unprompted and tried to kick the door down. She also threatened to call the police on one of the girls in the group for not returning a bracelet. A $40 bracelet. At this point, everyone in their group of friends and I started a group chat where we sent each other hourly updates of her texts and social media posts. They became increasingly unhinged and abusive. Most were empty insults, but a few were so mean they made me tear up. She called one of her friends who had just had a baby a whale. I had to stop following her on Instagram because I was getting secondhand embarrassment from all of her weird passive-aggressive posts about her former fake friends. She made a bunch of vague threats, which I didn't think much of at the time. As you probably saw coming, she sent me a string of incoherent texts. I was entertained by the fact that the worst thing she could say about me was that I was career-obsessed. I also have a disorder that prevents me from processing certain social cues, and she said something highly offensive about that which I won't repeat. I did screenshot it and send it to the group before I blocked her. I felt bad for some of the stuff she sent to my husband. He had a hard time blocking her because, despite everything, he was really worried about her hurting herself, and is a person who deeply cares. At one point, he just handed me his phone and told me to tell him if he needed to call the cops for a wellness check. The texts were hard to read because they really played on his insecurities. She went off about how she was friends with him when he was still a pathetic fat virgin, and that it was only a matter of time before I left him. I'm not leaving him. He got cheated on in college, and she texted that he deserved it, and that I was probably cheating on him now. I'm not. Finally, when she brought up a friend of his who passed away as an attempt to get him to respond, we agreed to block her on every medium. This person is crazier than I thought. There was a moment when I considered a restraining order. Perhaps this is way more drama detail than you all want, but she tried to break up 2 other couples in the group by disclosing infidelity. Someone called this in the comments, basically saying she has something on these dudes for them to keep her around. I just always assumed they were super conflict avoidant like my husband and feared a meltdown. The first couple wasn't a big deal. I had never known this about them, but apparently they're open, so his wife already knew. At first it was satisfying to watch her flip out when this revelation didn't land. They posted screenshots in the group chat. This guy's wife basically laughed at her and told her she was delusional. The other couple was so much more depressing. Birthday girl and him didn't actually have sex, but he admits that they drunkenly fooled around twice a few months after he started dating the woman who is now his wife. This one was soul-crushing because I really like those two together, and I don't know if they're going to make it. It was a shock to everyone. To make matters worse, Birthday Girl posted about them all over her social media so everyone knows he cheated. We haven't heard much from them since. This was by far the hardest part of the saga. Finally, she threatened to release photos of everyone partying when they were in high school. I'm being serious. There was nothing life-ruining, but certainly not things you want on the internet. The factor that saved them is that they were all underage and some photos were very sexual with partial nudity. I think it's weird she kept these. I'm a lawyer and helped them craft a message explaining the consequences of distributing images of minors that are sexual in nature. I'm hoping this one goes away, but if she does post them, it won't be the end of the world. Most people won't really be fazed that a group of 30-year-olds did drugs and hooked up in their teens. It just sucks they have to deal with it. I knew she was off, but she reached another level of crazy. This literally all happened over the course of a few days. She claimed to care about these people like family last weekend, and now she's blackmailing them. I feel weird labeling this as a happy ending because I think this woman needs help more than anything and she did real damage. I have a hard time mustering sympathy though. She spent years manipulating people and was so calculated in her attempts to box me out. If I'm being honest, she still scares me. It's been a few days and she's done a lot of damage. I worry about what she'll do in the future, and I'm a bit concerned that this was all under the surface and no one seemed to notice. It's just a mess. There is good news. I've always had my own group of friends, so I wasn't exactly pining to be included, but I feel like I'm meeting my husband's friends for the first time and it's been nice. I'm still understandably hesitant because I spent years thinking they disliked me, and this whole situation has me in such a bizarre emotional whiplash, but I appreciate their efforts, and this ordeal has helped me understand them to an extent. The girls in their group put me on a text chain they've had going for years. BG got kicked out, and I love their banter. We're going to dinner with another couple this week, and I recently received a late invite to one of the girls' wedding shower. Everyone has sincerely just seemed a lot happier since all of this went down, despite the pain that came with it. And for those wondering, my husband and I are really good. We're going to bring it up with our therapist, but we've made a commitment to never let toxic people come between us again. There's a moral buried in here somewhere, but I'm not sure what it is. I think it's something about how transparency and boundaries are important in all relationships, including friendships. Also, I think back what I said in my last post. I do think this girl is horrible and abusive. Abusive relationships can manifest in a lot of ways, and good people are often those who fall prey. A commenter asked if the best friend ever dated anyone during this time or was just trying to steal other women's men. OP replied, "Yep, she dated the guy who cheated on his wife with her. I don't think they were very serious. They would have hooked up like 7 years ago when he cheated. Another commenter said they felt bad for the couple with the infidelity and asked how long ago he cheated. OP did not specify how long ago the infidelity occurred. A third commenter asked if the best friend ever tried it on with OP's husband. OP replied, "I'm fairly certain she's had a thing for my husband since they were kids, but it was never reciprocated."